Hey, it's Ron with Farming Up the Hill. We're going to go pick up some new animals today. So here we go. We're going to get 3 heifers and a steer to try to get our herd going and make sure we figured out that we weren't going to have any beef, or not much beef for next year, so we thought we better get a steer. Anyway, red puppies run. Anyway, we're off and running. It's a few hours drive. So here we go. Alright guys, we're getting ready to go over the pass up here so we can, I guess that'll be our first and only pass we go over on this one. I don't think the next one is actually considered a pass, but it's very beautiful up here. A lot of aspens. Seen a lot of different animals. Let's check here. I think this pass is just a little over 9,000 feet. A lot of people can stop there. They've got a area you can walk around in the summertime when it's open. They get a camp host to set up here at the pass. Beautiful views. In this area, there's a lot of antelope that are around here. We do see a little bit of deer and elk every once in a while. We have seen a bear here run across the road. So very nice area, very beautiful. A fun fact that I learned the other day, that antelope are the fastest land animal in the continental United States. I find that kind of interesting. They're part of the goat family, actually. So for those who partake in hunting them, if you take them and clean them, you want to make sure that the fur does not touch the meat, because it has, I think it's lanolin in there,
I think you're
fur, and it'll transfer to the meat, and it will make it a very interesting flavor that most people don't like. So, like I said, just a tad bit of information, what some people would call Ron's worthless information, but which I have a tendency to have a lot of that. But a very beautiful area. Going over the passes, you always find interesting things. And what I have noticed too is when you go over the passes, we don't have a lot of foxes where we live, but there's a certain pass you go over, and
it's Hoosier.
Yeah, Hoosier Pass, and when you pop over that pass, we have a tendency to see a lot of foxes.
They're giant.
Yeah, big gray and red foxes, and you'll see a lot of them over that pass. Where we don't, I don't think I've ever seen a fox, or even a camera shot of a fox where we live. I've seen about everything else, but not a fox. Probably our predator load where we're at is really heavy, so I would think the foxes would have a tough time in surviving. And we don't have a lot of woods around where we live, so in the immediate area, I mean,
Not like this.
not like the, Pike's Forest or sand or anything like that. So and they've been doing a lot of clearing, or trying to make fire breaks and clearing out some of the brush, because we definitely don't want to, or try to avoid the things that happened in California. We don't want giant wildfires, so they've been working diligently on
Fire mitigation.
fire mitigation. That's because there's been some decent fires throughout the state of Colorado. We just don't want to see what happened in California happen all over the country and up here. So they're doing their due diligence.
Yep. I don't know
And
if you can see the piles over there.
yeah, so we're going by, here's an area where they've cut down a bunch of trees. They got piles of limbs. They've got the logs laying there. I'm assuming before long they'll come and get the logs. But like I said, just trying to get it in certain areas. So if there is a fire breaks out, they can hopefully contain it a lot faster and not let it get out of hand. Unfortunately, that's been in other areas or other fires that we have had in the past. So when you got fires, then you got mud problems.
We have enough mud.
Yeah, we definitely do have enough mud. So anyway, it's good things that we stay on top of. And a lot of this area you're looking around here, a lot of it is privately owned, but there's a ton of it that is government owned. But they lease it out to the ranchers to run cattle, animals on, so that helps keep the grass down, so we don't get a lot of, having grass fires. So they're doing lots of good things here, trying to make the land better, keep things under control a little better. So very interesting on different ways to look at things. So we'll come back with you in a few minutes when we get to another area. We're going to be driving for, I had to guess, somewhere around 6 hours. All right, guys. Well, we're getting closer to where we're picking up the cattle. Now, these cattle are being raised at about 5,000 feet, and we're at around 10,000 feet. Depends on what part of the land you're on. Which they're yearlings, so hopefully that'll make it better in the way of what they can handle and what they can do. When we first got our herd, we purchased them from an individual that was at 850 feet. And unfortunately, which we took the risk on it, but we lost 2 animals to brisket disease. So basically, when you move animals from one elevation up to an extremely different elevation, you have that chance. They get fluids built up from underneath their chin all the way down through their stomach area, and basically they end up dying of heart attacks. They call it brisket disease. And like I said, we knew that there was going to be a chance that could happen, so we went ahead and did it, and hoped for the best. That what we wanted, it was the right price.
Strangely enough, we lost the calves.
Yeah, we lost some of the younger stuff. So anyway, these are not as far down. These are, like I said, these are around 5,000 feet is where they were born and raised for the first year. They're yearlings.
And we've bought cows from this outfit before.
And we have bought some animals from this gentleman before. From him, we got Chris the bull and our steer. So we're going to like his herd he has. So like I say, we're picking up 3 heifers. They're too close. Excuse me. They're too close to Chris, which is okay because we're going to breed them with Michael, our big bull, and let him breed those. And then we'll take the offspring off that, and then we can have Chris breed them also if we want, if necessity. So as it stands right now, when we get these guys, which aren't quite ready to be bred yet, they're still a little too young, but eventually that means we have 6 cow/heifers that Michael can breed. And then as it stands today, we have 3 that Chris can breed. hoping that any time the other two cows will drop, we're hoping, some heifers, and then he'll be able to breed those. So we really like to have, once again, as it stands today, I'm thinking, originally I was thinking that I wanted a herd of 50. We'll have to wait and see how it goes. Things, you always adjust. Part of me thinks, well, maybe I should do it at 35. I'm still kind of planning on 50, just because of the demand for the meat and stuff. And I'm not sure the national herd is getting any larger as it stands today. So as long as the national herd is way down, there's always going to be a big demand for product. And like, we can't keep up with eggs and things of that nature. We sell them as fast as we can get them from the chickens. And like anything else, chickens is a fairly quick turnaround. But beef, when you have a calf, we're looking around 26, 28 months before they're ready to go to the processor. Where a chicken is ready. Normally you'll start laying eggs at 7 months or 6 months. But the first eggs are pullet eggs, so you got about a month before those eggs get big. They're pretty, they're small eggs when they first start laying. And we use those ourselves. To eat, make bread, whatever. And then as they get bigger, then they turn out to, we can sell them. So we're just constantly adjusting what we're doing. But once again, we're getting more heifers, really, because we want to speed the process up just a little bit. And I don't have a way right now that Michael could have more cows to breed, so he'd always be stuck with 3. And if you kind of do the math and you look at things, it is, keep a bull for 3 cows is pretty expensive. They eat a lot of hay. They
destroy a lot of things.
They damage things that you're going to have to fix just because they're so big, and they push things around, and cows around, people around. So, that's just one of those things you got to really look at. If you're only going to have 3 cows that he can breed, is he worth keeping around? So we looked at it and said, okay, why don't we do this? We get 3 more. 6 definitely makes more sense, being able to keep him around with. And then his offspring, we can feed into Chris, and that gives Chris is a young bull. He can really breed a bunch that way. So that's kind of our goal. And looking at the genetics, I do like the genetics of Michael.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any offspring from Chris yet, because he hasn't had the opportunity to breed. But Michael's a little bigger, and so it'll be kind of nice. He'll breed 6, which he'll be putting a little bigger genetics in him. And then Chris is still growing. He's not incredibly way behind Michael yet, size-wise. I don't think he'll be as big as Michael. But then he can breed, but he's breeding a bigger animal. So if it goes down a little bit, it's not as big of a deal. So it'll be quite interesting. It's one thing you got to do is constantly look at your genetics, and see what's working, what's not working. If a cow's having a problem, you got to call it. And then you also kind of look. I think as we get moving on, and the herd gets a little bigger, there's getting to be a few more people that might be interested in smaller breeds, just for homesteading, just for themselves. So I might keep a bull calf for somebody, or a heifer. But in reality, I'll make more money by processing them and selling it to the individual by the piece, or half or wholes. bales. So not really interested in doing quarters or anything like that. It'd have to be half or whole. So just because you're getting too many people involved, cuts, and yeah, it's the more people you get involved in when you're selling a half or a whole. If you go into quarters, it just starts to become more of a problem than it's really worth. So, but I'm excited about what we got going on. You look at things year round. If you've never been involved with it or never really thought about it, I never stop thinking about hay or feed. Looking at what's going on in the world. Look at how the harvests are going. If there's any droughts, anything like. You constantly got to be looking at it. You're looking at fuel prices. Does it make more sense to have hay brought in? And get a semi-load? Or does it make more sense to pick it up as you can go? The downside, if you want to call it a downside, is when you bring a semi-load in, you're looking at you're buying all the hay from the same person, coming out of the same spot, and bringing it to you. Well, if they're good hay and they got awesome prices, it's really good. But sometimes you can go around and some people have just a small amount they want to sell, and they just want to get, it's still a decent amount, but it's a small amount, and you can go there and pick it up and get a really good price on it because they don't have to piecemeal it out. They got 20 bales, 3x3x8s, and they got 15 or 20 bales. Well, a person comes in with a big trailer and takes them all at once. It's much easier than I'm going to take 2 bales. I'll take a bale. That way they're just done. They don't have to worry about meeting for somebody. It's just a done deal. And a lot of times you can get some decent pricing on that, where on the big guys sometimes that have a ton of hay and they're semi-loading it, sometimes you just don't get the best pricing on that. But you get the convenience factor of it. You're getting the same hay. There's definitely some pros and cons to both sides of it. So you just kind of have to look at it and how things are going. And also, like I said, if there's the weather's not favorable, you might be going one direction to get some hay and then go in a different direction because they got some decent rain in that area and weather. So it's just something you have to look at. And that's the same thing with feed for the pigs or the chickens or anything else. We're just constantly thinking about that and looking at that as things move on, and that's a year-round thought for me. I'm never, what do we got to do here? Our whole deal is we're trying to bring the land back so we can have some natural food for the cattle and the goats and stuff, and at the same time we want to make sure that we have plenty of feed for them, because the animals are, is our concern. They're relying on us. They're not out there just running around. We don't free range our animals, which we could, but there's too many predators. And to be honest with you, right now there's been a lot of theft. On the free range animals, they're stealing large quantities of them, and so we have to look out for the animals and make sure everything's good for them, make sure they got water, make sure they got food, room to move around. So we're constantly improving stuff. And a lot of our stuff, like I said before, is really strictly due to we're not 100% sure where we would like them to be. Do we want them over in this part of the land? Do we need to make something bigger for them? What kind of shelter do they need? How much yard do they need? Just what makes sense. How do you handle it in winter? How do you handle it in summer? We have very intense sun in the summertime, and we have basically most of our cattle are black or dark red, so they're picking up the heat. So it's part of our land has shade, part of it doesn't, so we're going to have to make sure they got shade, they can get out of the heat in the summertime. And then of course in the wintertime we get pretty cold. Minus 21 is nothing. It's not odd at all. And we have gotten down to minus 51. So, you know, you have to look at all those things, and not only for them, but us too, because we got to go out and do it. We got to go out twice a day, check on the animals, get them water, do everything we need to do for them. Well, we're in that same scenario as they are. Of course, we can layer and put our clothing on and all that good stuff, but it's still cold. It's the more layers you put on to fight that is it's harder on us to get around and to move that stuff. You know, in the summertime when you got a pair of jeans on and a t-shirt and a hat, you know, it's much easier than when you have a heavy coat on, coveralls, insulated coveralls, jeans under that, shirts under that, gloves on, hats, heavier coats. You know, it just takes a little bit out of you, especially, and then you're trying to walk through snow. We're not trying to slip on ice, so we just have to put all that in the situation and what we have. And then, of course, being in the mountains, we don't have a ton of flat land. We have some pretty steep hills. We got some nice rolling hills, but still, if it has to be somewhat flat, you know, we have to look at those spots, and those are prime spots for us to do our job and build, you know, structures on. So, but yeah, it's a constant. You don't get a chance to turn it off. Rarely do I just go, oh, I'm going to do this or that. I'm pretty much always thinking about, what do I have to do next? How can I get it done? What are the days that like? So, anyway, we are almost to where we're going to meet them to pick up the animals. So, it won't be much longer. All right, guys. Well, we picked up the animals. So as you can see, here they all are. Got a steer and 3 heifers. Looking good, looking good. So we'll take these back. And like I say, they're basically yearlings. They're little bitty guys. In the scheme of things, I'll turn this around here, that we try to do. And see if I can get out of here a little better, get the sun out of my face. So yeah, we'll get these ran home, get them in the pen. We're gonna make one stop on the way back to get a few things. But we're in great shape. It's always exciting when you get to expand a little bit and keep going. So anyway, they're might be get a little better look in here as we enter in. Here we go. Now I get a better shot of them. Come down here. They seem to be pretty decent. This little one right here, that's a nice heifer, I understand. So, and I'm pretty sure this guy over here is this one over here. He's got his head back here turned around. That's our steer. And the other two are nice little heifers, and we'll get them home. We'll get them in a pen. We'll separate them for a little while, feed them, water them, see if we can get them a little nicer. Come here, baby. She's a little scared still, but we're gonna do good. Everything should be fun. So can't wait to get them home. Try to get that's the people coming to see a few things. So look at them. They're enjoying life. So anyway, all right. We got the long drive back. So if we make any special stops on the way back, I'll come back to you and we'll kind of see what's going on. If not, we definitely will get the video going when we get them out, get them backed up to the pen, get them moved into it. So, here you go, baby. Here you go. Come here. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. Anyway, I don't want to scare them. I won't scare enough. Give them a ride home. So anyway, we'll recheck recheck everything and we'll get on down the road. Okay guys, well unfortunately we didn't get any footage of me and Amy unloading the cattle that we wanted to do, but see if I can get across this mud. I'm falling in it. So so it's pretty bright. It was just her and me, and we couldn't get the trailer in exactly where we wanted it. So we thought we'd better just concentrate on the cows and getting those guys taken care of. So making sure they got to where they're at. Amy went to go get more water, and so then we have, get my hand out of the way. And so the one with the horns, that's Nubs. The owner named it. So Nubs. Next to that one is Sweet Pea. Let me get in here and get a picture of Sweet Pea. Another brown heifer. And then next to that is I think it was Susie. Need to double check. So it should be Nubs, Sweet Pea, and I think Susie. And then over in the corner, which are going to make it a little harder for me to try to get up, there he goes, is our steer. And I'm calling him Pork Chop. I know he's a cow, but I'm calling him Pork Chop. Why not? They're actually not bad at all. They're pretty friendly. Come here, Pork Chop. Come here, buddy. Let's see if we can get him to come over. I don't think they were. There's Sweet Pea. She's a heifer. The brown ones are heifer, and the smaller one is also a heifer. And then, like I said, we got Pork Chop there that's gonna be hanging around. He's our steer. He's actually banded, so he's not quite a steer yet, but he's definitely got his goodies taken care of. They'll be in this pen for a while, and so the new cows could see them. We had to put this panel around here so they can't get out underneath and nobody can get in. So these guys over here are enjoying life. They're finally got some feed in. Unfortunately, our tractor had to go back and get some service done to it. It had a leak in it. So, and look, there's our neighbors. So, and the calf, he's kind of hiding back there. Let's see if we can get a picture of our calf, bull calf. Well, he's actually a steer now. We took care of him. So, we got, here comes Amy and Vern and all the wonderful stuff. Vern, no, no. Anyway, let Amy come in. So anyway, guys, it's kind of getting late, and Amy's coming in. It's gonna need some help. So please like and subscribe. Give us a notification bell. If you like what you're seeing here, leave us comments. We'd like to hear from you. Watch that electric line! Watch that electric line! The electric, he was about ready to touch. So anyway, guys, please like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up if you like it. And share this as much as you can. We sure could use some more subscribers. You have a great day, and we'll see you next time.